Welcome to In the Middle. I'm Vykky. I'm a wife, a mom, and a leader shaping some of the world's most beloved brands. This is the podcast for all of us figuring it out in real time. In 20 minutes or less, let's get in the middle of it all. I'm so glad you're here. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to In the Middle. I'm so glad you're here. Today is going to be the second part of a two-part series where I'm talking about layoffs. This one is called After the Shift. And if you haven't listened to part one, When the Ground Starts to Shift, I strongly recommend you head back there before you start listening to this one. In that first episode, I shared the signs that I noticed and some of the preliminary things I did to prepare for a layoff. Again, I did not have any inclination that it was going to actually happen, but I noticed some key signs that signaled to me that there could be a layoff on the horizon. So if you haven't listened to that episode, pause this one, go back an episode and listen to that one. For those of you who heard last week's episode, let's jump into part two, and let's start with the 3 truths that I shared last week. So the first truth, your body notices before your inbox does. Essentially, that means trust your intuition. If you have that gut feeling, lean in. It doesn't mean that you have to make a definitive decision that, yes, a layoff is coming, but don't discount what your gut and what your intuition is trying to tell you. Truth number 2, preparation is power. It is not pessimism. Doesn't mean that you feel like the sky is falling, the glass is half empty. It just means that you have taken enough notice that you're going to start doing a couple of things to make you a little bit more prepared so that you are a little bit more comfortable should a layoff come your way. And my third truth, the goal is not to predict, the goal is to be ready. Again, you have done all the things. You're taking notice. You're asking all the hard questions to your leaders. You're watching financial analysts. You're listening and reading what they're sharing about your company and the industry. You are preparing yourself. You've gotten the resume together. You've put away your 3 to 6 months of an emergency fund. And now you sort of sit back. You continue to do your job. You continue to support and show up the best employee you can be. But should a layoff come your way, you are in a much better position to navigate that journey and hopefully rebound faster than most people do. So let's get into my layoff story. As I shared in part one, I noticed some things. I listened to an earnings call that didn't go well. I noticed some leaders leaving, budgets were being pulled back, all the things. And I did what I'm encouraging you to do. I did a little preparation. I applied to a handful of roles. Now, like I shared in part one, this was not me applying to any and everything that popped up on LinkedIn. I was very, very specific, and the bar had to be pretty high for me to take time to apply to a role. I don't know about y'all, and maybe this will be a different episode, but when I am on the market and I'm applying to jobs, I go all out. I'm writing cover letters, and I know that those are polarizing. Some people believe they work. Some people don't believe it. If I'm really passionate about a role, I'm going to submit a cover letter too. I'm refreshing my resume. And so I did not want to essentially have a part-time job of applying to jobs. So I really intentionally searched for roles that I would be interested in. So the role that I'm sitting in today, I am a director of channel and content strategy for Starbucks. Starbucks has been a brand that I've admired for many, many years. Even prior to joining the company, I was a super customer, and it's just a brand that I've always looked up to and modeled some of my approaches and strategies to marketing and communications. And so when the role popped up, I said, wow, this role looks fantastic. It had a lot of experiences that I already had on my resume, but then there were a few things that were going to be stretch opportunities for me to continue to grow in my field. And so I applied and I didn't hear anything back. It definitely felt like a shot in the dark, sitting here, super fan customer. I'm like, this is probably not going to happen, but we all know the saying, you miss all the shots you don't take. And so I applied to the role and went on about my day. I applied to a couple more and I continued to show up at work. I continued to work really hard, leading my team, empowering my team, trying to do the very best work that we could. Towards the end of 2023 was really a doozy ending for me. I was in the middle of 75 Hard. For those of you who don't know what 75 Hard is, it is a discipline challenge. You work out twice a day, every day, 45 minutes. One of those workouts has to be outside. You drink a gallon of water. You have to read 10 pages of some type of self-help book. You have to take a picture of yourself every day. What else? You have to follow a diet. They're not prescriptive about which one, but you just can't have any cheats. And if you miss out on any of those things, you have to start over. So I guess technically I did not do 75 hard. I did 75 hard ish. And so I worked out every day. And then on Sunday, I did an active rest day. So I wouldn't do two 45-minute workouts. I would do one 45-minute sort of a casual walk or some type of recovery stretch exercise, something like that. And I did drink a gallon of water. I did not read 10 pages a day. I either listened to 10 minutes of a book and I wasn't prescriptive about it having to be self-help. I just consumed some book for at least 10 minutes a day every day. I also didn't do the pictures because I felt like that wasn't good for me mentally, but to each their own. Anyway, again, it's more of a discipline challenge. It is polarizing. Do what you think is best for you, but I really enjoyed it. So anyway, I was in the middle of doing 75 hard, and this was like the end of October, early November, and I went to play volleyball with a colleague. I grew up playing volleyball. I played volleyball in college, and I went to play, and y'all, I was killing. I was playing with a bunch of high school girls, and I'm, in my late 30s, feeling myself. We played for hours and hours. I should have stopped at hour 2. Yes, I should have, but I was greedy because I was having fun. I love the sport. I love the game. I don't think there's a better sport on earth besides volleyball. So we're at the end of playing, and I think we're like serve receive, and I take one step, and it felt like a volleyball slapped me in the back of my leg. And anyone who has had a ruptured Achilles already knows what that means. And I hit the ground immediately. And I was like, oh no, I don't think this is good at all. I tried to stand up. I couldn't. They were such delightful people. They drove me home, and it was so great. I got home and it was confirmed that I had a ruptured Achilles and I had to have surgery. So I'm navigating that. That again, that is like that was the beginning of November, end of October. And I was a week away from finishing 75 hard. I cried because I knew I wasn't going to be able to finish 75 hard. And I had made it so close, truly 7 days out from finishing. And so anyway, at work, we had like one of those all hands, and the rumor mill was really stirring. And I just don't know, really, honestly, any corporation that has been successful in keeping layoff whispers completely out of the sort of ether of work, but this one was pretty bad, and we kind of knew it was coming. We just didn't know when. We didn't know how bad it was going to be, but at that point, it felt really confirmed that was going to happen. While all of this is going on, I'll back up a bit. I had heard from the recruiter from Starbucks, and I was stunned. He reached out, and I'm like, wait, you actually want to talk to me? And this is a whole thing with imposter syndrome, that it is something that I think especially impacts women. No matter how successful you are, I've heard women at the highest level still talk about imposter syndrome. And so it's something that I continue to try to work on and coach, especially in the younger women on my team. I want them to overcome imposter syndrome even faster than as I'm still navigating it. But I had to really try to push down that imposter syndrome as I went through the entire process of interviewing. My husband will tell you every turn, I'm like, oh, I was terrible. It was awful. They hate me. And I would get a call back from the recruiter that I'm moving on to the next round. So this is happening while this kind of looming layoff is also happening. And that's something that I will encourage you, if you are navigating a layoff or if you feel like it's going to happen. What did give me maybe a little bit of peace is that not only did I have the Starbucks job that I was interviewing for, I was also interviewing for other roles. Of course, this role I was so excited about, and it was my number one, and all of that. But it gave me a little sense of control that, like, hey, if this layoff actually happens, I have some other things on the fire that I can potentially fall back on should this thing happen. And so, again, this goes back to truth number 2, preparation is power, it's not pessimism. And so I'm going through the interview process, trying to push down my imposter syndrome as much as I can. And we get to the day where I'm actually having surgery. And I think this is like November 13th, if I can recall. And we get an all hands on our calendar. I think everyone was asked to stay home. And we were told that folks were going to be laid off that day, and they were going to get the notice that they were going to be laid off. My husband and I are driving to my surgery, and I'm hearing the all hands. I'm just like, I'm getting text messages from people on my team. And it is so overwhelming because in that moment, I truly just had to give it to the Lord, because I physically am limited. I physically can't do a lot. At this point, I am riding around on a scooter. I have a boot on my foot. I have to go up and down the stairs on my butt. Like, I am physically limited. Mentally, I am taxed, because not only am I thinking about myself and my career, I think at the time I had like 13 or 14 people on my team. I'm thinking about the people on my team whose worlds are also being racked. And I hate that I'm not physically there with them, to try to offer some type of encouragement and support to them. I will say, as an aside, as the rumor mill swirled, I am telling them the same things that I'm telling y'all today. I told them, dust off your resume, refresh your LinkedIn. If you apply to a role and you see that I'm connected to someone there, tell me. I'm happy to do a referral. Like, I didn't want any of them to leave prematurely, but I also didn't want them staying out of loyalty and then we all ended up without a job. And so I just encouraged them, do whatever is best for you and your family. There is no love lost. I want you to always do what's best for you. And I think if you candidly don't have a leader saying that to you, you need to say it to yourself. At the end of the day, unless you are an entrepreneur, you have your own company, these jobs are transactional. It's fantastic when it's fulfilling, and my role is deeply fulfilling for me. But it's not lost on me that should things change or the business goes in a different direction, I am being paid, I'm delivering good work. It's transactional. And if they make the decision to go in a different way, I'm out of a job. And so your loyalty can only go but so far, until it's to your detriment. And I think sometimes, especially now that we're seeing so many people being laid off, there's so much hurt. They take it so personally, and I get it. We don't spend time, as much time as we do at work, anywhere else in our lives. And so it can be deeply personal, but I think the more that you can put a little separation in between who you are, your purpose, and the business that you work for, the less it will hurt. It will still hurt. I went in to this layoff knowing all of these things, and it still hurt. So I'm not saying it's not going to hurt. I think the recovery won't be as bad. So anyway, my husband and I are truly driving down the highway. This is obviously, I was still living in North Carolina at the time. We're driving down the highway, and I am like, Lord, you just have to, like, I just felt this heavy weight. And I'm like, Lord, you have got to take this. Like, I'm headed into surgery. Going into surgery in and of itself is scary, but I could not even focus on the surgery because I am so concerned that my phone is about to ring telling me that, like, hey, you're about to be laid off. So as I'm sort of praying this prayer and just trying to keep myself as calm as possible, because the other thing I'm thinking about is if I go into this hospital and my heart rate and my blood pressure is through the roof, they're going to reject me for surgery, and I want my Achilles repaired. So I'm trying to keep myself calm. And would you know it, we are headed down the highway and I get a call from the recruiter from Starbucks, and he says, hey, the team liked you. We're going to move you on to the next phase of the interview process. And I just felt the Lord just, it was almost like a kiss on the forehead of like, I got you. I got you. And it wasn't like that was a job offer. It was, you're moving on to the next round, but it gave me such calm and such peace that I was like, okay, let's do this. So I get into the surgery. I share with the nurse that, I think I might be getting laid off, but I'm not sure. And he was very concerned, and he was like, uh, do you want to reschedule this? And I'm like, nope, let's do this. Go ahead. put me under. And so I go through the surgery. Praise the Lord. Everything went swimmingly. I don't remember anything. It felt like I had just gone to sleep. When I wrap up surgery and I'm discharged, we're headed back home. I finally turn my phone back on and my phone is blowing up. And I'm just drinking just some black iced coffee today, actually. So anyway, my phone is blowing up. And I'm hearing from people on my team and some of my colleagues, and this was my first time being impacted by a layoff. I've survived them before this, but I didn't know what to expect. But in this particular layoff, everyone who was impacted was given a packet. And in the packet, they have all of the important information that you need to know about a layoff, COBRA, your last day, all the things you need to do in order to get your severance, all of that. In the back of the packet, and to this day, I still don't know why this needed to be there, but maybe it was a state requirement. I don't know. I didn't investigate. But in the back of the packet, it shared everyone who was impacted by their title and age. And because I was, if not the youngest, probably one of the youngest directors, and my sort of internal title was Director of Digital Marketing, most people could figure out that it was me. At this point, I hadn't heard from HR because, again, I was in surgery and she knew I was going into surgery. And, but it was also really weird to hear that potentially I'm being laid off from people on my team, people who were my peers. So once I got home and settled, still probably a little hopped up on pain meds, I got on, I think we were using maybe Slack there or Teams. I honestly don't even remember. And it was just like, hey, and like, if you can think about sort of like coming off of surgery pain meds, hey, I think I'm being laid off. Can we just talk? That was the chat that I sent. That's it. That's the tweet. And so um, she eventually reached out, and shout out to her. I obviously won't say her name, but I felt like she had the best intentions. Clearly, she did not want to deliver that news to me the same day I was having surgery. And I appreciated the heart of it, but it also was not helpful when, I mean, easily 10 people reached out and said, hey, I think this is you. Have you heard anything? And we got on with another person within the marketing department, and we went through the whole process. And although I anticipated it and I wasn't shocked, it still hurt and I still cried. I think I cried because it wasn't on my terms. And I also think there were probably tears about just relief and the definitive answer that, yeah, this is my time is ending here. And if you think about it, I started to kind of notice things in like May or June. And at this point, this is November. We're like in the middle of November. And so if you think about the culmination of all of the stress of, is it happening? What's happening? People are leaving, all of that over time. I think I more so cried because that weight was finally lifted and I knew for sure that my time was ending. We were asked to stay on through the end of November. Our last official day was going to be December 1st. And I helped to offboard myself and set the folks who were surviving, who survived it, to be prepared to carry on the work that my team was doing. And I would encourage you that if you find yourself in a layoff, if you are asked to stay and you decide to stay, and if that is contingent upon you getting your severance, as much as you can, just parse out the emotions and lashing out on people who are like your peers, your colleagues, because more often than not, they had nothing to do with your layoff. And they are already struggling themselves with survivor's guilt. And they also are probably stressed because they know that they are going to take on so much more work that is outside of their scope. And so they are navigating their own thing. Do with that what you will, but I did have a ton of grace for the folks who were surviving because I know that they didn't have a say in whether or not I was chosen to go. And ultimately, as believers, we know that God has the final say. And so I knew that he knew and he allowed all of these things to happen. And I knew that wow, actually, I need to get excited because better is on the way. And I truly had that heart posture once it was settled that my time was coming to an end. So I spent the next 2.5 weeks preparing for what life was going to be like being laid off. And I did have that moment of like, oh my gosh, I now need to ramp up this application thing because, again, I had just been invited to panel for Starbucks, but that was not a slam dunk by any means. Again, very competitive company, very sought after company. So um, I didn't feel like I had anything in the bag at all at that point. I had a few other roles in the hopper, and they were all good roles. Some of them felt like safe roles, like, okay, I'd done this job before, I could go in and it wouldn't take too much of my mental capacity to do it. And so I wasn't necessarily eager to say yes to any of those offers, but should it get a little bit too dicey for me, I would have accepted the role, especially if Starbucks was a no. So fast forward, it is my last day at the company. Again, I'm recovering from surgery, so I'm still on my scooter. I'm not in the boot. I have a splint, and so I'm not mobile at all. And even in that, y'all, I'm like, wow, I could see the Lord in that because we were getting ready to roll into the holiday season. I really need to focus on my recovery, and now I can be laser focused on healing and physical therapy and all of those things because I'm about to be out of a job. And so fast forward maybe 5 to 7 days into December, I'm now officially no job. I get a call from the recruiter at Starbucks. And again, y'all, imposter syndrome is so real. And like I continue to work, I continue to work on it. But while the recruiter is offering me the job, my brain is hearing, well, we offered it to this other person and thanks so much for being. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure it's a competitive process. Thanks for the opportunity to interview. And, I hope we can stay. Like, I'm saying my consolation speech. And he's like, Vykky, we're offering you the role, right? And I was like, wait, what? And it hit me like, oh my gosh, I did not know anyone at the company. I was a blind application and I made it through. And for those of you who are deep in the application process right now and you feel like you have to know somebody at the company in order for the role to work out, let this just be a testament that like at one of the biggest and probably one of the most important brands in the world, a little brown girl from Durham made it in. So I hope that encourages you. Like, yes, it's always helpful to have somebody that you know at a company that you want to work for, but I also think when you do good work, maybe when you do the cover letter, I'm kidding. I don't know if the cover letter, I need to ask the recruiter. I'll ask the recruiter if the cover letter helped or not. But I think what's for you won't miss you. And I just strongly believe that. I talked to my husband because we don't accept offers in real time. And we did our negotiations because we also are people who negotiate around here. And I ultimately accepted the role. And at this point, I've been in the role a little over 2 years. And truly, every day I feel blessed. I love my company. I love my team. I love my leaders. I am blessed beyond measure. So I accept the offer. And so, what does that mean for me and for my family? What went from being, okay, our severance needs to last us X amount of time, now goes from being the thing that's going to tide us over until I get the next role to being the thing that actually helps us to secure our 3 to 6 months emergency fund. It secures us paying off debt. I am able to really rest and recover the entire month of December because now I know that I have a job that I'm going to start in January. And so that just allows me to really focus on my recovery and healing my body and resting my body and candidly healing my mind from all of the things I had navigated in my role at the previous organization. It was such a gift from the Lord to have the month of December off and I could have it off with peace. I didn't have to jump straight into a new job. I had the time to get through the holiday season and to be with my family and to candidly start to get my affairs in order because one of the things that I had to commit to is that my family would be willing to relocate to Seattle. And so I just am grateful to the Lord at how intentional He is in everything. And if you slow down enough, and I'm not just saying this to those of you listening and watching, I say this to myself. If we just slow down enough, we can see God's intentionality in everything we do. And so, even down to Him preparing me to do 75 hard, that is an intense challenge. But me going through that made my body stronger. He knew that I was going to get hurt and I was going to need a better upper body strength to support myself getting in and out of the bed, going up and down the stairs. It's little things like that. It's the detail of like, I had been drinking so much water. And so the way I recovered, my surgeon was like, wow, like you are getting back to yourself so much faster than most patients. And I largely attribute it to how active I was leading up to my injury. All the way down to I was about to, and my family was about to embark on a huge move. Up until that point, my husband and our youngest daughter had never lived outside of the state. I've lived in a few different states, so I know that feeling. But getting them prepared for what it means to live the farthest west and the farthest north you could go, but still staying in the United States, you could go. That was such a major change. And so just God allowing that space for us to process as a family and the security to know that we were going to be okay spiritually, financially, emotionally, all of those areas. I'm deeply, deeply grateful. It has just been such a great journey. And I continue to see God's faithfulness in the community that we've built here in Seattle. It's a much smaller community than what we were used to in North Carolina. But even in that, I see God's grace because I think sometimes I had been overbooked and overcommitted. And now the weekends are our own, and I'm able to slow down a little bit and really soak in the moments and sort of recover from the week because we do work hard. And so I want to encourage you, my brothers, my sisters, God will use it all. And I know that my story is not, um, I know that it's not common. And I know that there is a ton of privilege in being able to technically really be out of a job. I think out of a job for 6 or 7 days. And so I see God's blessing and I am deeply, deeply grateful. And I know that some of you may be listening or watching or approaching 6 months, a year and a half to being out of work. And I'm sorry that the market is where it is. And I'm sorry that roles haven't opened up for you. And I am believing with and for you that the next best role is on its way for you. And I hope that you continue to find ways to lean into your creativity. You continue to find ways to hone your skills. You are doing what you need to keep your mental health strong, doing whatever you need to keep yourself healthy and whole. I pray that you have capacity to navigate that. I try to be as much of an open book, and I'm so passionate about helping people navigate their careers. And if it's something that I can do, whether it's looking over resumes, doing an informational interview, it might take me some time depending on the outreach, but I am committed to doing that and helping. I know the job market is hard. I know it's hard. If I can help, I would love to help and would love to support you. I continue to pray for an acceleration in our economy and for opportunities and roles to open up. So yeah, I pray that my story has encouraged you and helped you, especially those of you who are at companies where things look a little dicey. The worst thing that you can do is just sit and be a bystander. Please use my story and the stories you see every day as a cautionary tale. You have to be in the driver's seat. You need to be proactive. It doesn't mean that you have to just up and quit or you have to apply to 50 jobs a day, but you need to always be prepared, always have your resume up to date, continue to nurture your network and your communities, pay attention to the financials. Even if you sit in a role that is far from it, it's still your responsibility to understand the health of the business and do whatever you need to get as smart as you can on the topic. Um,
I hope this episode helped y'all. Thanks for the time, and I'll see you next week. Bye.
Thanks for listening to In the Middle. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend and click subscribe so you never miss an honest conversation about life in the middle. I'll see you next time.